welcome to the live stream. If you are watching the recording, welcome. It is currently 6:15 a.m. this Saturday morning, and I'm gonna try to implement doing a little bit of like studying, schoolwork, reading ahead on Saturday, whether that's working on an essay for like a few hours in the day. I want to do my goal is to do multiple things. So it's 6 a.m. I think I'm going to start with reading ahead with a textbook chapter. So once I read the chapter, I'll take like maybe an hour, 2 hour break, and then I can move on to another class, guys. Peace be upon you as well, Stu Lover Kitchen. Glad you could tune in. I was just telling you, or the audience, that on Saturdays this semester, I decided to implement whether doing my schoolwork, whether that's in the form of reading ahead on a textbook chapter, working on an essay. It's just something if I have something to do. So this morning, it's 6:16 a.m. Woke up a little late. Normally on the weekdays I wake up at 5, but since it's the weekend, I couldn't. I set my alarm for 7. I was going to wake up at 7, but I couldn't sleep until 7. So I'm going to read ahead on a textbook chapter for one of my elective class. This elective class, I'm doing the most like reading ahead and working ahead because it is only a 7-week class this semester. So I'm gonna read this chapter, maybe take like an hour, 2 hour break when I'm done, and then I'll come back and either like try to work ahead like on a writing assignment for like a different class like that. So I already read chapter 1, 2. I already read chapter 3 as well for this class. So now I'm gonna read chapter 4. Yeah. But she doesn't have a due date really on when chapter 4 is 5. And her syllabus is a little weird. I think it's due on the 21st of January, but I'm not 100% sure because her syllabus doesn't really align well. So it doesn't hurt to read ahead. And then even with this elective class, she has lecture videos as well. And the lecture videos are good. They're just really long. But they it has the same information as the textbook does. So I like to read it because sometimes the videos are so long when you watch it, it doesn't really help you retain anything. So if I can't watch all the videos just because it's not really a thing, at least I read the chapter. So welcome, Sing. I only read and speak English, so unfortunately I do not understand what you type, but you're still welcome here. So for everybody who's on the live stream, feel free to leave a comment, but for the most part, I will be focusing on my schoolwork for this live stream, so I really won't be engaging with the comments that much, so definitely stay tuned, and I feel like you can definitely learn something. I pay a lot for my education, taking a wide variety of classes, and I tend to share the material for free with you guys. Welcome, Kathy. So, do a degree grad student studying public administration, criminal justice. I'm taking an elective information systems class this semester because it's 7 weeks and I want it to finish soon. So yeah, let's get into it. Enjoy learning some material with me, and this is essentially how I take notes. You're gonna see sometimes I'll pause the video, sometimes I'll be typing really fast. When I start writing really fast, that's how you know my brain is starting to like disassociate and not really focusing on the content, and I just want to finish this reading, okay? So we'll see. Jesus loves you as well. Thank you. You're kinda. Okay, let's get into it.
Organizations behaving badly. WhatsApp, an instant messaging app for smartphones, allows users to send text messages, documents, images, videos, user location data, and other data over the internet to other WhatsApp users, using standard cellular mobile numbers. In the past, WhatsApp has been a strong defender of its users' privacy, employing end-to-end encryption for all messages sent through its service and regularly resisting requests from authorities for data access. As a result, WhatsApp has been the instant messaging app of choice for users who wish to keep their conversations private, including individuals working to expose corruption within organizations and those reporting on the activities of totalitarian governments. Facebook purchased WhatsApp for $22 billion in 2014. After the sale to Facebook was announced, WhatsApp CEO and co-founder Jen Kalm declared that nothing would change with the company's privacy practices. Indeed, Kalm posted that, if partnering with Facebook meant that we had to change our values, we wouldn't have done it. Asterisk. This statement has come back to haunt him. In the fall of 2016, WhatsApp announced that it would begin providing user data, including phone numbers, usage data, and information on devices and operating systems being used, to Facebook and the Facebook family of companies. Asterisk. According to the company, this information allows Facebook to make better friend suggestions and display more relevant ads to users while also allowing businesses to send messages to users, including appointment reminders, delivery and shipping notifications, and marketing pitches. The policy shift is intended to help WhatsApp generate more revenue and makes economic sense. However, the change has raised concerns over the privacy of users' conversations and identities and has upset users drawn to the app by the company's previous strong stance on privacy. What trade-offs should social network organizations consider when changing their privacy policy? Must the scales always be tipped in favor of increased revenue? As you read this chapter, consider the following questions. What is the right of privacy, and what is the basis for protecting personal privacy under the law? What are some of the laws that provide protection for the privacy of personal data, and what are some of the associated ethical issues? Privacy protection and the law. The use of information technology in both government and business requires balancing the needs of those who use the information that is collected against the rights and desires of the people whose information is being used. Information about people is gathered, stored, analyzed, and reported because organizations can use it to make better decisions. See Figure 4.1. Some of these decisions, including whether or not to hire a job candidate, approve a loan, or offer a scholarship, can profoundly affect people's lives. In addition, the global marketplace and intensified competition have increased the importance of knowing consumers' purchasing habits and financial condition. Companies use this information to target marketing efforts to consumers who are most likely to buy their products and services. Organizations also need basic information about customers to serve them better. It is hard to imagine an organization having productive relationships with its customers without having data about them. Thus, organizations want systems that collect and store key data from every interaction they have with a customer. Figure 4. When organizations gather a variety of data about people in order to make better decisions. Details. An illustration shows the variety of data gathered about people to make better decisions. A circle at the center labeled, "Who are you?" surrounded by 10 circles labeled associates and affiliations, driving record, educational records, financial data, location data, medical history, police record, work history, sexual orientation, and web browsing behavior. However, many people object to the data collection policies of governments and businesses on the grounds that they strip individuals of the power to control their own personal information. For these people, the existing hodgepodge of privacy laws and practices fails to provide adequate protection. Rather, it causes confusion that promotes distrust and skepticism, which are further fueled by the disclosure of threats to privacy. A combination of approaches, new laws, technical solutions, and privacy policies, is required to balance the scales. Reasonable limits must be set on government and business access to personal information. New information and communication technologies must be designed to protect rather than diminish privacy, and appropriate corporate policies must be developed to set baseline standards for people's privacy. Education and communication are also essential. This chapter will help you understand the right to privacy as well as the developments in information technology that could impact this right. It also addresses a number of ethical issues related to gathering data about people. First, it is important to gain a historical perspective on the right to privacy. During the debates on the adoption of the U.S. Constitution, some of the drafters expressed concern that a powerful federal government would intrude on the privacy of individual citizens. After the Constitution went into effect in 1789, several amendments were proposed that would spell out additional rights of individuals. 10 of these proposed amendments were ultimately ratified and became known as the Bill of Rights. So, although the Constitution does not contain the word privacy, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the concept of privacy is protected by the Bill of Rights. For example, the Supreme Court has stated that American citizens are protected by the Fourth Amendment when there's a reasonable expectation of privacy. The Fourth Amendment reads as follows: the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. However, the courts have ruled that without a reasonable expectation of privacy, there is no privacy right. Today, in addition to protection from government intrusion, people want and need privacy protection from private industry. Few laws provide such protection, and most people assume that they have greater privacy rights than the law actually provides. Some people believe that only those with something to hide should be concerned about the loss of privacy. However, others believe that everyone should be concerned. As the Privacy Protection Study Commission noted in 1977, when the computer age was still in its infancy, the real danger is the gradual erosion of individual liberties through the automation, integration, and interconnection of many small, separate record-keeping systems, each of which alone may seem innocuous, even benevolent, and wholly justifiable. *C Table 4.1. Table 4.1 systems that gather data about individuals.
Let's see what monitors our data, guys. What is that? Automatic license plate reader. Law enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and the United States Customs Border Controls, use this. They take a photo, document the location of your car. Isn't that like automatic speed cameras? Let's see. Table 4.1. Good info on examples of technology. Monitors are data. Okay, other stuff that monitors our data in society. We have backscatter imaging scanners. This is used by law enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They scan vehicles as well as individuals and crowds at public events to search for currency, drug, and that's kind of cool. They have that technology to do that just by like scanning a face or your car. They have something known as cookies. This is for-profit companies, non-profit organizations, news and social media sites. They capture your browsing history for website customization and personalization purposes and for targeted marketing purposes. So it's because of cookies. You may be talking about something, or you Google, let's say planning a vacation, and you Google Thailand, and then you go on your phone and you go shopping, or you watch a movie and everything is and what they're recommending you is about Thailand now after that one Google search. It's because of cookies, guys. Let me write that down. I could use as a good example in a discussion post or something. recommend morning videos, activities, etc. Okay. You guys know what drones are, right? They're used by law enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. Yeah. They surveillance us from the sky, guys. I need more pens. Pens are dying. Facebook, for you guys who use Facebook and Facebook users. Facebook tags identify and reference people in photos and videos posted on Facebook by its more than 1 billion users. We know that. We have Google location services. This is on smartphones and other mobile devices. Google location services they store a history of location data from all devices where the user has logged in into a Google account, guys. So you ever have lapse of memories on where you've been, just go to Google your location and they'll have it there forever, I guess. Like, don't commit crimes, guys. But if you do, don't have a phone on you. Don't commit crimes. It's not good at all. They got technology to track you and find you very quickly. This is interesting. They have something known as Mystic. This is used by the National Security Agency, NSA, and Mystic is used by NSA to intercept and record all telephone conversations in certain countries, including Afghanistan, the Bahamas, Mexico, Kenya, and the Philippines. That's crazy. Because there is no practical way to exclude them. The conversations captured by Mystic includes those of Americans who make calls to or from the targeted countries. So if you guys are in America or an American and you call somebody from Afghanistan, the Bahamas, Mexico, or Kenya, or the Philippines, Mystic, National Security Agency, is listening to those phone calls, guys. I mean, I don't know anybody from those countries, but, like, they most likely still listen to our phone calls in America. NSA, if you're listening to my live stream, how you doing? If I ever one day I'll submit my application to work at your company, like, I'm gaining the knowledge now about you, so, like, make sure you give me that interview and give me the job. So yeah, you can record my conversations. Nothing against it. They most likely listening to the YouTube live now. I apply, guys, and they'll have a file on me. All my live streams will be there for all my TikToks. Everything will be on their desk, guys. They'll know more about me before I know about them as soon as I walk in the door. Welcome, welcome, Mason. Yeah, I remember you. Welcome, welcome back. Doing some schoolwork right now, reading ahead. So decided, let me tune on to live. You guys can learn some stuff with me. I have to write this down because I can use it in a discussion post I recently wrote. Listen. My black pen is dead. I went to the Bahamas one time with my mom. They listened to our conversation. Our conversation was recorded. Okay. We have something known as premise. It's premise. I'm saying it wrong. I said it wrong the first time. This is used by NASA. Why do I say stuff funny? Okay, anyway, it's a surveillance program that collects internet data such as search history, photos sent and received, and the content from emails, file transmitters, and voice and video chats. Wow. It gathers data related to telephone calls, including the numbers of both parties on a call and the location, data, time, and duration of the. That's what I tell you, like, they're recording everything. That's crazy, man. Your browser history isn't really deleted, people. Welcome to the live stream. We're learning how the U.S. government monitors us, guys. Monitors us. Me, including you guys, no matter where you are in the world, they reach you too. You can't hide from it. Okay. Go back. Internet search. Photos. Emails. Okay, we have the Secure Flight Program. This is used by the Transportation Security Agency. Secure Flight is an airline passenger pre-screening program and check travelers' personal information. Okay, that's not that surprising. Okay, smart TVs. For people out there who have smart TVs in their house, it says some TV manufacturers. Maybe that should be crossed out and say all TV manufacturers, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say some. So some smart TVs can capture personal. I told you guys this. Have you guys ever heard of Edward Snowden? He said this. I had to write an essay about him in my political science class, guys. And I saw like a documentary about him when he wanted to like expose that the American government was watching people and listening to the conversations, because during that time period, like early 2000s, American people, based on like watching the videos, because I was a kid then, based on watching the videos and like reading the textbooks about it, they suspected that the U.S. government monitored them, like their calls, but they didn't know for sure. It wasn't like a valid fact that we knew. So Edward Snowden, he essentially exposed that information to the American people, and he did work for like a prominent U.S. government where he was supposed to keep that information confidential. So because of that, he's no longer welcome in America. Some people call him an American hero. Some people call him a terrorist. But anyway, the main thing is saying he essentially said that TVs, computers, phones, it listens to your conversation, and people didn't believe him. In the documentary, he was like in like, I don't know where he was, in like some, I think the Philippines or like some country outside the USA, and he had like American reporters meet him to like tell the story so like they could break the story. And the reporters said as soon as they walked into the room, he took their phones and he destroyed it. So yeah, so it says some smart TVs can capture personal conversations along with voice commands. So like I have a smart TV at home. There's a smart TV. And conversations are being recorded, and I always tell people that. So yeah, it's true, guys. Our conversations are being recorded on smart TV. So if you have a smart TV in your house, and if you don't want your conversation to be recorded, you literally can't have any technology, guys, because if you don't have a smart TV, your phone is going to record your conversation. If your phone's not going to record your conversation, your computer's going to record your conversation some way. So yeah. All right, welcome, Lucas. We have something known as stingrays, and stingrays are used by law enforcement agencies. So, stingrays is a type of hardware device that's used to impersonate, wow, a cell tower, forcing all mobile phones within range to connect to it. So the device can then capture information that can be used to identify and locate users and the phone numbers they call or text. Okay, so that's how, like, when you watch true crime movies, they're like, oh, we tracked their phone, and then this is who they had a conversation with. And then we have surveillance cameras. Everyone knows what surveillance camera does. I hope. Surveillance cameras, they're used by law enforcement agencies, and the cameras are used for intelligence gathering, the prevention of crime, and the protection of individuals or an object, and to support the investigation of a crime. Okay, we know that. Yeah, but your TV listens to you guys.
Information privacy. A broad definition of the right of privacy is the right to be left alone, the most comprehensive of rights, and the right most valued by a free people. Asterisk, another concept of privacy that is particularly useful in discussing the impact of ID on privacy is the term information privacy, first coined by Roger Clark, director of the Australian Privacy Foundation. Information privacy is the combination of communications privacy, the ability to communicate with others without those communications being monitored by other persons or organizations, and data privacy, the ability to...
What do you guys think, man? Oh, welcome, Final Boss. Glad you can tune in. Welcome, Lucas. Welcome, Mason. So right now I am taking, this is a information systems class, law, legal, and ethics. So essentially this topic that I'm reading about today, it's about privacy. So the right to privacy in the United States, things like that. So I was just telling you guys, I was reading some information from the textbook that my computer wouldn't have read to us. And it was literally listing out various United States government agencies that monitor our conversations. And then one thing that came up was smart TVs that listens to your conversation. And smart TVs are things like TVs that have internet on it, if you connect Siri to your TV, things like that. So if you're ever wondering, because there's people sometimes in my house, when I'm home, they're like, oh, I just spoke about this one topic. You would literally speak about it, and then they go on their phone and they're getting a lot of recommendations for it. Or they'll Google one thing about a topic, and then suddenly they're getting recommendations from YouTube, the internet, Facebook about various topics. This is how it's happening, because the algorithm is picking up you either did that one Google search, so it thinks you're interested in it, so it's going to continue to recommend these products to you about that topic, or your TV's listening to you, so it's then thus just going to recommend you random stuff. So that's what we're doing. Yep, if you are in Los Angeles, guys, hopefully the wildfires aren't affecting you right now. That sounds like some fast winds. Hopefully it goes down. If your family, your friends in California, guys, stay safe. Right now I am doing some schoolwork, so I decided to let me live stream, and I'm learning some stuff, and hopefully you can learn some stuff. I like to share what I learned with you guys, so let's get back to it.
Limit access to one's personal data by other individuals and organizations in order to exercise a substantial degree of control over that data and their use. Asterisk, the following sections cover concepts and principles related to information privacy, beginning with a summary of the most significant privacy laws, their applications, and related court rulings.
Hey, I'm not done. Sometimes the textbook reads too fast for me. They have vocabulary words I gotta write down. So glad you guys can tune in. It's currently 6:45. I woke up at 6. I think I started at 6:14 a.m. this morning doing this. I decided on Saturdays and Sundays most likely I'm going to be doing a little bit of schoolwork. I'm not going to work a whole 10 to 12 hours. I honestly work more than that on the weekdays, but I'm not going to work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the weekends, okay? I'm going to I'll read this textbook, read this chapter, work on my discussion post for a little bit, maybe take like an hour, 2-hour break, or 3-hour break, come back to it, do something else, whether it's like a writing assignment for another class, and that'll allow me to like I'm already ahead, so hopefully that allows me to like maintain it, if that makes sense to you guys. So yeah, most valuable. I mean, it's nothing new for me. I did it in undergrad. So I haven't like obviously I work on weekends, but I haven't like done it consistently since undergrad because I really didn't need to in the previous semester. So that this can just be me like being paranoid and don't want to fall behind in any shape or way. So like I'm starting it early. So who knows, as the semester progresses, if I feel like I have like more of I'm more comfortable and I don't feel like I have to work ahead too much, that can change. But for the most part, it doesn't really hurt to do some work on the weekends, honestly, whether that's reviewing notes or anything. Otherwise, I'll just be in my room looking at the wall, watching Netflix. I mean, I'll still do that. So 24 hours in a day, I have time to do fun stuff and schoolwork on the weekends. Wait, guys, I'm gonna read your messages in a minute. And data privacy. Do you guys say data or data? I say data sometimes. Sometimes I say data. I don't know why. Okay. Lucas said, which is hurricane force winds I have never ever seen before in LA. Yeah, it's crazy. Like wildfires, it's crazy what's happening. It's really sad, but I just hope like people are staying safe, and if they can evacuate, hopefully they evacuate. Hopefully no property is damaged in an ideal world. So yeah, just sending like everyone in California, if you're my subscriber, if you're not my subscriber, positivity, guys. Stay safe out there and everything is gonna work out. Final boss said, okay, I can agree that in stores everything based on permission given. I don't think technology is advanced. Hold that much. I mean, yeah, technology is like, it's constantly advancing. So from what it was from when I was a kid to now, it's definitely more advanced. And like, that's what I was just learning about. Like, that's what I was reading. Like, perhaps it doesn't monitor or could hold all the data since like technology was created until now. But then again, who knows? Maybe. But the main thing with it, in modern society, there are like certain technological devices that does monitor our conversations. So I think it's just like important for people to know that. Yeah. Lucas said the firefighters are working day and night. Yeah, shout out to the firefighters in LA, putting out the fires, risking their lives. Stay safe. Welcome, Axe. Glad you could tune in. It's 6:49 a.m. where I'm at. So yeah, we have a difference in time zones, but glad you could tune into the live. Haven't seen you in a live in a while, Axe. Welcome back. Right now I'm reading some textbook chapters about privacy in the United States. So feel free to leave a comment. I'll read it when I'm like at the end of like each chapter or like each page. I can go and like read your comments, respond. In the meantime, stick around. Definitely listen, because I'm learning some interesting stuff I didn't think in this chapter, but like it's definitely interesting. So, and I feel like it can definitely apply to you. It's just good to further your own knowledge about the right to privacy that you have as a United States citizen, and companies that are monitoring your privacy and technologies that are doing that. Hey, borderline of California, that's still pretty close, especially when you got some wildfires happening, Lucas. So stay safe. Welcome, Lunda. Glad you could tune in. I'm doing good. How are you doing this morning?
Privacy laws, applications, and court rulings. This section outlines a number of legislative acts that affect a person's privacy. Note that most of these actions address invasion of privacy by the government. Legislation that protects people from data privacy abuses by corporations is almost non-existent. Although a number of independent laws and acts have been implemented over time, no single, overarching national data privacy policy has been developed in the United States, nor is there an established advisory agency that recommends acceptable privacy practices to businesses. Instead, there are laws that address potential abuses by the government, with little or no restrictions for private industry. As a result, existing legislation is sometimes inconsistent or even conflicting. You can track the status of privacy legislation in the United States at the Electronic Privacy Information Center's website, www.epic.org. The discussion is divided into the following topics: financial data, health information, children's personal data, electronic surveillance, fair information practices, and access to government records. Financial data. Individuals must reveal much of their personal financial data in order to take advantage of the wide range of financial products and services available, including credit cards, checking and savings accounts, loans, payroll.
Sounds like... Yeah, I need my textbooks to, like, if I have no choice, I can, like, read it myself, but I retain the information better and it makes the process go by faster. My computer reads my books to me, so when I can, I opt for that because I can listen and take notes, so I'm, like, multitasking. No, this isn't homework. How would I describe this? Is work ahead work. As a grad student, you don't really get homework because, yeah, obviously, I do take time to review the notes that I have taken. I'm not just taking notes and never looking at them again. I do review them, but for the most part, you're on a deadline, so you want to work ahead. Do work ahead work. Because if you wait until after the deadline, you can't submit it. It's not going to be due. So, yeah. Yeah, my mom's doing good. Is your mom okay with you streaming and doing homework all at once? Yeah, she's okay with me streaming and doing homework all at once. Like, for the most part, I'm not ignoring you guys, but I'm ignoring you guys for the most part when I'm doing my work, like taking notes and doing that. And, like, if I'm doing something, like, obviously all my schoolwork is important, but, like, if I'm doing something that's top tier, like high level work, like writing an essay or studying for an exam, I'm not live streaming. So, like, reading a textbook chapter, it's important, but I wouldn't consider it high-level work, if that makes sense for you guys.
Direct deposit and brokerage accounts. To access many of these financial products and services, individuals must use a personal login name, password, account number, or PIN. The inadvertent loss or disclosure of these personal financial data carries a high risk of loss of privacy and potential financial loss. Individuals should be concerned about how these personal data are protected by businesses and other organizations and whether or not they are shared with other people or companies. Fair Credit Reporting Act, 1970. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, 15 U.S.C. paragraph 1681, regulates the operations of credit reporting bureaus, including how they collect, store, and use credit information. The act, enforced by the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, is designed to ensure the accuracy, fairness, and privacy of information gathered by the credit reporting companies and to provide guidelines for organizations whose systems that gather and sell information about people. The Act outlines who may access your credit information, how you can find out what is in your file, how to dispute inaccurate data, and how long data are retained. It also prohibits a credit reporting bureau from giving out information about you to your employer or potential employer without your written consent. Asterisk. Right to Financial Privacy Act, 1978. The Right to Financial Privacy Act, 12 U.S.C. paragraph 3401, protects the records of financial institution customers from unauthorized scrutiny by the federal government. Prior to the passage of this act, financial institution customers were not informed if their personal records were being turned over for review by a government authority, nor could customers challenge government access to their records. Under this act, A customer must receive written notice that a federal agency intends to obtain his or her financial records, along with an explanation of the purpose for which the records are sought. The customer must also be given written procedures to follow if he or she does not wish the records to be made available. In addition, to gain access to a customer's financial records, the government must obtain one of the following: an authorization signed by the customer that identifies the records, the reasons the records are requested, and the customer's rights under the Act. An appropriate administrative or judicial subpoena or summons. A qualified search warrant or a formal written request by a government agency can be used only if no administrative summons or subpoena authority is available. The financial institution cannot release a customer's financial records until the government authority seeking the records certifies in writing that it has complied with the applicable provision of the Act. The Act only governs disclosures to the federal government. It does not cover disclosures to private businesses or state and local governments. The definition of financial institution has been expanded to include banks, thrifts, and credit unions, money services businesses, money order issuers, sellers, and redeemers, the U.S. Postal Service, securities and futures industries, futures commission merchants, commodity trading advisors, and casinos and card clubs. Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, 1999. The Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA, Public Law 106-102, also known as the Financial Services Modernization Act of 1999, was a bank deregulation law that repealed a Depression-era law known as Glass-Steagall. Glass-Steagall prohibited any one institution from offering investment, commercial banking, and insurance services. Individual companies were only allowed to offer one of those types of financial service products. GLBA enabled such entities to merge. The emergence of new corporate conglomerates, such as Bank of America, Citigroup, and JP Morgan Chase, soon followed. These one-stop financial supermarkets owned bank branches, sold insurance, bought and sold stocks and bonds, and engaged in mergers and acquisitions. Some people place partial blame for the financial crisis that began in 2008 on the passage of GLBA and the loosening of banking restrictions. GLBA also included 3 key rules that affect personal privacy. Financial Privacy Rule. This rule established mandatory guidelines for the collection and disclosure of personal financial information by financial organizations. Under this provision, financial institutions must provide a privacy notice to each consumer that explains what data about the consumer are gathered, with whom that data are shared, how the data are used, and how the data are protected. The notice must also explain the consumer's right to opt out, to refuse to give the institution the right to collect and share personal data with unaffiliated parties. Anytime the privacy policy is changed, the consumer must be contacted again and given the right to opt out. The privacy notice must be provided to the consumer at the time the consumer relationship is formed and once each year thereafter. Section 75,001 of the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, FAST Act, signed into law in 2015 modified this requirement, allowing financial institutions covered under GLBA to be exempt from the annual delivery of privacy notices to customers under certain basic conditions. Customers who take no action automatically opt in and give financial institutions the right to share personal data, such as annual earnings, net worth, employers, personal investment information, loan amounts, and social security numbers, with other financial institutions. Safeguards Rule. This rule requires each financial institution to document a data security plan describing its preparation and plans for the ongoing protection of clients' personal data. Pretexting Rule. This rule addresses attempts by people to access personal information without proper authority by means such as impersonating an account holder or phishing. GLBA encourages financial institutions to implement safeguards against pretexting. After the law was passed, financial institutions resorted to mass mailings to contact their customers with privacy disclosure forms. As a result, many people received a dozen or more similar-looking forms, one from each financial institution with which they did business. However, most people did not take the time to read the long forms, which were printed in small type and full of legalese. Rather than making it easy for customers to opt out, the documents required that consumers send one of their own envelopes to a specific address and state in writing that they wanted to opt out. All this rather than sending a simple prepaid postcard that allowed customers to check off their choice. As a result, most customers threw out the forms without grasping their full implications and thus, by default, agreed to opt into the collection and sharing of their personal data. Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, 2003.
I guess I'm gonna drink. Let me read these. You guys are writing along. Okay, Valentine's Day, very cool. Orange juice. Yup. When you are studying and doing schoolwork. What? Your body only releases dopamine when you're happy, right? I don't know. I don't track it. Final boss. I really don't know. My brother calls my drip lame. Well, don't listen to them. I'm sure your style is very cool. What are you studying exactly? Privacy regulations in the United States. Yeah, orange juice. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Yeah, but it's about different privacy stuff in the US of A.
The Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, Public Law 108-159, was passed in 2003 as an amendment to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and it allows consumers to request and obtain a free credit report once each year from each of the three primary consumer credit reporting companies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. The act also helped establish the National Fraud Alert System to help prevent identity theft. Under this system, consumers who suspect that they have been or may become a victim of identity theft can place an alert on their credit files. The alert places potential creditors on notice that they must proceed with caution when granting credit. Asterisk. Health information. The use of electronic medical records and the subsequent interlinking and transferring of this electronic information among different organizations has become widespread. Individuals are rightly concerned about the erosion of privacy of data concerning their health. They fear intrusions into their health data by employers, schools, insurance firms, law enforcement agencies, and even marketing firms looking to promote their products and services. The primary law addressing these issues is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, 1996. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability.
Alright, what did I just write? Let me see. Amendment to the Fair Credit Reporting Act passed 2003 that allows consumers to request. Oh, okay. I understand that. Makes sense.
Accountability Act, HIPAA, Public Law 104-191, was designed to improve the portability and continuity of health insurance coverage, to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse in health insurance and healthcare delivery, and to simplify the administration of health insurance. To these ends, HIPAA requires healthcare organizations to employ standardized electronic transactions, codes, and identifiers to enable them to fully digitize medical records, thus making it possible to exchange medical data over the internet. The Department of Health and Human Services developed over 1,500 pages of specific rules governing exchange of such data. At the time of their implementation, these regulations affected more than 1.5 million healthcare providers, 7,000 hospitals, and 2,000 healthcare plans. Asterisk. The rules, codes, and formats for exchanging digital medical records continue to change, making for an ongoing maintenance and training workload for the individuals and organizations involved. Under the HIPAA provisions, healthcare providers must obtain written consent from patients prior to disclosing any information from their medical records. Thus, patients need to sign a HIPAA disclosure form each time they are treated at a hospital, and such a form must be kept on file with their primary care physician. In addition, healthcare providers are required to keep track of everyone who receives information from a patient's medical file.
Cool.
For their part, healthcare companies must appoint a privacy officer to develop privacy policies and procedures as well as train employees on how to handle sensitive patient data. These actions must address the potential for unauthorized access to data by outside hackers as well as the more likely threat of internal misuse of data. The penalties for non-compliance are based on the level of negligence, and violations can also carry criminal charges that can result in jail time. New York and Presbyterian Hospital and Columbia University agreed to pay $4.8 million to settle charges that they potentially violated HIPAA regulations by failing to secure thousands of patients' electronic protected health information held on their network. Asterisk. HIPAA assigns responsibility to healthcare organizations, as the originators of individual medical data, for certifying that their business partners, billing agents, insurers, debt collectors, research firms, government agencies, and charitable organizations also comply with HIPAA security and privacy rules. This provision of HIPAA is of particular concern for many healthcare executives, as they do not have direct control over the systems and procedures that their partners implement. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights, OCR, is a federal agency responsible for enforcing civil rights and health privacy rights. Following a complaint investigation or a compliance review, OCR sometimes determines that it is necessary to negotiate resolution agreements to force organizations to revise their policies, practices, and procedures to comply with federal civil rights laws including HIPAA. Asterisk. Some medical personnel and privacy advocates fear that between the increasing demands for disclosure of patient information and the inevitable complete digitization of medical records, patient confidentiality will be lost. Many think that HIPAA provisions are too complicated and that, rather than achieving the original objective of reducing medical industry costs, HIPAA has increased costs and paperwork for doctors without improving medical care. In addition, the Executive Leadership Group of Vice Presidents for Research of the Association of Academic Health Centers, AAHC, has concluded that the myriad regulations and mandates associated with HIPAA has raised unintended barriers that hamper medical research processes and progress. Asterisk all agree that the medical industry has had to make a substantial investment to achieve compliance. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, 2009. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, Public Law 111.5, is a wide-ranging act passed in 2009 that authorized $787 billion in spending and tax cuts over a 10-year period. Title XIII, Subtitle D, of this act, known as the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act, or HITECH, included strong privacy provisions for electronic health records, EHRs, including banning the sale of health information, promoting the use of audit trails and encryption, and providing rights of access for patients. It also mandated that each individual whose health information has been exposed be notified within 60 days after discovery of a data breach. Children's personal data. A recent survey revealed that teens spend more than 9 hours per day on average watching television, playing video games, social networking, browsing websites, or doing other things on a computer, smartphone, or...
I can attest it's more time for that for little kids. Not for me. 8-year-olds, it's more than 9 hours a day. Your brains are being fried, guys. Don't spend too much time on technology. Even though I love you guys tuning into my live, it's not good for you all the time.
Or tablet. Asterisk tweens, children aged 8 to 12, spend about 6 hours on average consuming media. Many people feel that there is a need to protect children from being exposed to inappropriate material and online predators, becoming the target of harassment, divulging personal data, and becoming involved in gambling or other inappropriate behavior. To date, only a few laws have been implemented to protect children online, and most of these have been ruled unconstitutional under the First Amendment and its protection of freedom of expression. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, 1974. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, 20 U.S.C. paragraph 1232G, is a federal law that assigns certain rights to parents regarding their children's educational records. These rights transfer to the student once the student reaches the age of 18, or earlier, if he or she attends a school beyond the high school level. These rights include the right to access educational records maintained by a school, the right to demand that educational records be disclosed only with student consent.
Wait, what? An act implemented in 1999 in an attempt to give parents control over the collection, use, and disclosure of their children's personal information. What did you just say? We gotta rewind now. We're gonna rewind that, guys. Let them read it over.
According to the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA 15 U.S.C. paragraph 6501 6506, any website that caters to children must offer comprehensive privacy policies, notify parents or guardians about its data collection practices, and receive parental consent before collecting any personal information from children under 13 years of age. COPPA was implemented in 1998 in an attempt to give parents control over the collection, use, and disclosure of their children's personal information. It does not cover the dissemination of information to children. The law has had a major impact and has required many companies to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make their sites compliant. Other companies eliminated preteens as a target audience. Hasbro, Mattel, Viacom, and Jumpstart Games were fined a total of $835,000 in 2016 for violation of the COPPA.
Oh, if you're over 13, your parents don't need a. You don't need their. Yeah, that's funny. If you're over 13, you can lock your parents out of your grades, guys. That's what that just said. It's an act where it requires parent consent if your child is 13 and under. So if you're 14, they don't need to see your grades. I mean, they need your consent, right? I could be wrong, but like that's my interpretation of it, I think. My mom has all the passwords. I can't lock her out of nothing, guys. She be looking for my grades before I be looking for my grades when they're due.
Connection with technology used by these companies that allowed third-party marketing and advertising companies to use cookies and IP addresses to gain access to the personal information of children under 13 years old without getting their parents' approval first.
See? I was right. Access personal information of children under 13 years old without getting their parents' approval first. It applies to 13 and then personal information.
The companies were also forced to change their systems to protect the information of child users from being tracked. Asterisk. Electronic surveillance. This section discusses government surveillance, including various forms of electronic surveillance, as well as some of the laws governing those activities. In recent years, new laws addressing government surveillance have been added and old laws amended in reaction to the development of new.
Guys, let me read your comment. I'm not trying to ignore you guys. I don't want to be reading this all day, this book. Let me go back. Lucas said, I have a black Nike socks to match my Nike. Okay, nice. So very, very monochromatic vibes. Love monochromatic vibes. Final Boss said, what number was on that fortune? Oh, like the billion. I think it was like 81 billion. Yeah, they had to pay to thousands of individuals. So that 81 billion compared to thousands, those people got some money. So yeah, the only way it seems like that in the United States where you're going to get monetary compensation for privacy exposure is if it's related to your health. Because my school, one time I got an email from them, they're like, your grades has been exposed for like, I guess somebody hacked into their system or whatever, and they said my grades was disposed. So, my grades were exposed, and I didn't get any money from them. So, yeah. It's only related to medical health, guys. Where we gonna get cash if they expose it? But it was 81 billion or mil. It was a million. Let me go back and see for you guys. HIPAA. Okay, it was in the HIPAA section. How come when you're looking for something, you can never find it? Like that? That's annoying. Okay. Hospital records. I didn't write it down because numbers aren't really important to this class. Okay. Oh, we were all wrong. It was 787 billion. Not even 81. $787 billion they had to pay. So yeah. These people got some money. Welcome, Holy Mindset TV. Tell you what you missed. What? Tell you what you missed. Sorry. I was getting a text message. You didn't really miss anything. Right now, I'm just, like, taking some notes from my textbook chapter. So, like, all you need is, like, your visual aids, and you can learn something along with me. Oh, you're a visual learner? Oh, yeah, you would have to buy the textbook. I paid money for this textbook. I can't share it. But what do you guys think about 13 euros being 13 people 13 and up being able to, like, I guess, lock their parents out of their grades if they want to? Send that to your mother. I mean, I could, but like I said, she has all the passwords, so she could log, because, like, for, like, reason, like, financial aid reason, she has, like, all the passwords for me to help me with that. But so, like, she be looking for my grades because she knows they're, like, around the period when final grades are due. So sometimes I would get a text like, your grades aren't in. I didn't even look for my grades yet. What are you worried about my grades? So yeah. So let us see. I'll have to look into that sneakers app. That's cool. Okay, let's get into it.
Communication technologies into heightened electronic surveillance. This section discusses government surveillance, including various forms of electronic surveillance, as well as some of the laws governing those activities. In recent years, new laws addressing government surveillance have been added and old laws amended in reaction to the development of new communication technologies and to heightened awareness of potential terrorist threats against Americans at home and abroad. The net result is that the scope of government surveillance has greatly expanded, going from collecting data on as few people as necessary to collecting data on as many people as possible. Many of the resulting surveillance activities are viewed by some as an unconstitutional violation of the Fourth Amendment, which protects us from illegal searches and seizures. As a result, there are frequent court challenges to these government actions, as well as an ongoing public debate about whether such activities make us Americans safer or simply erode our rights to privacy. Some people also feel that our basic rights of freedom of expression and association are violated when the U.S. government conducts widespread electronic surveillance on U.S. citizens. For instance, some people who belong to particular ethnic, religious, and social groups, including political activists on both ends of the political spectrum, are concerned that private data collected by the government could at some point be used to identify and target them and their associates. There is also concern that our past communications may be used in the future to implicate us in crimes that were once private and innocent acts. On the other hand, many Americans feel that the U.S. government is obligated to do all that it can do to provide for the security of its citizens, even if it means violating some of the rights designed to protect our privacy. After all, they argue, if you are not doing anything wrong, you should have no concerns. Figure 4.2 provides a timeline for the enactment of some of the most significant laws and executive orders addressing issues of governmental surveillance. Figure 4.2 various laws affecting electronic surveillance details. Title 3 of the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act, 1968, amended 1986. Title 3 of the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act, Public Law 9351, also known as the Wiretap Act, regulates the interception of wire, telephone, and oral communications. It allows state and federal law enforcement officials to use wiretapping and electronic eavesdropping, but only under strict limitations. Under this act, a warrant must be obtained from a judge to conduct a wiretap. The judge may approve the warrant only if there is probable cause to believe that an individual is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a particular offense, and that normal investigative procedures have been tried and have failed or reasonably appear to be unlikely if tried or to be too dangerous. Asterisk. One of the driving forces behind the passage of this act was the case of Catch v. United States. Katz was convicted of illegal gambling based on recordings by the FBI of Katz's side of various telephone calls made from a public phone booth. The recordings were made using a device attached to the phone booth. Katz challenged the conviction based on a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights. In 1967, the case finally made it to the Supreme Court, which agreed with Katz. The court ruled that the government's activities in electronically listening to and recording the petitioner's words violate the privacy upon which he justifiably relied while using the telephone booth and thus constituted a search and seizure within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. Asterisk. This ruling helped form the basis for the requirement that there be a reasonable expectation of privacy for the Fourth Amendment to apply. Title III court orders must describe the duration and scope of the surveillance, the conversations that may be captured, and the efforts to be taken to avoid capture of innocent conversations. A total of 4,148 wiretaps were authorized in 2015, with 1,403 authorized by federal judges and 2,745 authorized by state judges. The most frequently noted location in wiretap applications was a portable device, 96% of the time. This category includes cell phone communications, text messages, and software apps. In 2015, for reported intercepts, installed wiretaps were in operation for an average of 43 days. The federal wiretap with the most intercepts occurred during a narcotics investigation in the District of South Carolina and resulted in the interception of 81,122 messages over 300 days, including 35,402 incriminating interceptions. Asterisk. These numbers include numbers from only reporting 25 states, and do not include wiretap orders in terrorism investigations, which are authorized by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA court. Since the Wiretap Act was passed, it has been significantly amended by several new laws, including FISA, ECPA, CALEA, and the USA Patriot Act, all of which are discussed later in this section. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, 1978. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, 50 U.S.C. describes procedures for the electronic surveillance and collection of foreign intelligence information in communications between foreign powers and the agents of foreign powers. Foreign intelligence is information relating to the capabilities, intentions, or activities of foreign governments or agents of foreign governments or foreign organizations. The Act allows surveillance, without court order, within the United States for up to a year unless the surveillance will acquire the contents of any communication to which a U.S. person is a party. Asterisk. If a U.S. citizen is involved, judicial authorization is required within 72 hours after surveillance begins. The Act also specifies that the U.S. Attorney General may request a specific communications common carrier, a company that provides communications transmission services to the public, to furnish information, facilities, or technical assistance to accomplish the electronic surveillance. FISA requires the government to obtain an individualized court order before it can intentionally target a U.S. person anywhere in the world to collect the content of his/her communications. Under FISA, a U.S. person is defined as a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or company. The FISA court must be satisfied, based on a probable cause standard, that the U.S. person is an agent of a foreign power or an officer or employee of a foreign power. FISA also created the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA court, which meets in secret to hear applications for orders approving electronic surveillance anywhere within the United States. Each application for a surveillance warrant is made before an individual judge of the court. Such applications are rarely turned down, as shown in Figure 4.3. Between 2001 and 2015, more than 25,000 applications were submitted to the FISA court, and only 12 of those were rejected. Asterisk. Figure 4.3 FISA court applications are almost never modified or rejected details. Source: Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act Court Orders 1979-2015, Electronic Privacy Information Center, https://epic.org/privacy/surveillance/FISA/stats/default.html, access November 23, 2016. Executive Order 12333, 1981. An executive order is an official document used by the President of the United States to manage the operations of the federal government. Executive orders are subject to judicial review, and may be struck down if considered by the courts to be unsupported by statute or the Constitution. Many executive orders pertain to routine administrative matters and the internal operations of federal agencies. However, some executive orders have a much more visible impact. For instance, in 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, an executive order to free all persons held as slaves in the United States, and in 1942, President Roosevelt issued an executive order to intern Japanese Americans in prison camps. Executive Order 12,333, which was issued by President Reagan in 1981 and has been amended several times, identifies the various U.S. governmental intelligence gathering agencies, see Table 4.2, and defines what information can be collected, retained, and disseminated by these agencies. Under Executive Order 12,333, intelligence gathering agencies are allowed to collect information, including message content, obtained in the course of a lawful foreign intelligence, counterintelligence, international drug, or international terrorism investigation, as well as incidentally obtain information that may indicate involvement in activities that may violate federal, state, local, or foreign laws. This tangential collection of U.S. citizen data, even when those citizens are not specifically targeted, is forbidden under FISA.
Let's see the agencies that can collect our data. What time did you wake up? 6:14. Yeah, you saw me yawning a lot. But yeah, my eyes were open. Apparently I was still tired, or I am still tired. That's what all my yawning is telling me, guys. I'll fall asleep early, so yeah. We got the Central Intelligence Agency, Department of Intelligence Agency, and the National Security. These are all have to abide by the Foreign Intelligence Service Act, guys. Right? Yeah, and they can obtain executive orders, which can be subjected to judicial review. And judicial review is when a judge, I have to notice it's in another class of concept I learned this week. Judicial review is when a judge looks at a case or they look at a law and they interpret this law to say this law means this. So I'm a judge. Justice Hutchinson, I'm a judge. And I look at a case and I'm like, okay, because you did this, now moving forward, anyone who buys apples, or since you bought apples, you didn't commit a crime. That's me saying judicial review, or it's me saying looking at like the First Amendment and saying, okay, under the First Amendment, as we know, you have the freedom of speech. So Facebook censoring what you said was a violation on their part of that freedom of speech, something like that. So it's looking at a law and interpreting it. We got the National, I can't say that. Some of these names are weird. I can say the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I can say that. The FBI. I'll work for them one day. We got the Bureau of Intelligence and Research. It has research in there. I'm a researcher. I can add that on the list. But I got the FBI there. We have the Office of Intelligence and Analysis. How old am I? I can apply to work for them now. Probably won't get accepted yet, but I can still apply. FBI. Okay, let's move on. Let's stop thinking about that. Okay.
Executive Order 12,333 also approves the use of any intelligence collection techniques that are in accordance with procedures established by the head of the intelligence community and approved by the Attorney General. There is limited congressional review and oversight of these procedures, and they have never been publicly debated or voted on by Congress. Electronic Communications Privacy Act, 1986. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act, ECPA, 18 U.S.C. paragraph 2510-22, deals with three main issues. 1. The protection of communications while in transfer from sender to receiver. 2. the protection of communications held in electronic storage, and 3. Addressing and signaling information without a search warrant. ECPA was passed as an amendment to Title III of the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act. Title I of ECPA extends the protections offered under the Wiretap Act to electronic communications, such as email, fax, and text messages sent over the Internet. The government is prohibited from intercepting such messages unless it obtains a court order based on probable cause, the same restriction that is in the Wiretap Act relating to telephone calls. Title II of ECPA, also called the Stored Communications Act, prohibits unauthorized access to stored wire and electronic communications, such as the contents of email inboxes, text messages, message boards, and social networking sites.
This is a long chapter, guys.
However,
it's not just
the
you.
law only applies if the stored communications are not readily accessible to the general public. Webmasters who desire protection for their subscribers under this act must take careful measures to limit public access through the use of login procedures, passwords, and other methods. Under this act, the FBI director or someone acting on his behalf may issue a National Security Letter, NSL, to an Internet service provider to provide various data and records about a service subscriber. An NSL compels holders of your personal records to turn them over to the government. An NSL is not subject to judicial review or oversight. Figure 4.4 shows the number of NSLs issued for the time period 2005 to 2015. Figure 4.4 National Security Letters issued between 2005 and 2015 details. Source: Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act Court Orders 1979-2015, Electronic Privacy Information Center, https://epic.org/privacy/surveillance/FISA/stats/default.html. The third part of ECPA establishes a requirement for court-approved law enforcement use of a pen register, a device that records electronic impulses to identify the numbers dialed for outgoing calls, or a trap and trace, a device that records the originating number of incoming calls for a particular phone number. A recording of every telephone number dialed and the source of every call received can provide an excellent profile of a person's associations, habits, contacts, interests, and activities. A similar type of surveillance has also been applied to email communications to gather email addresses, email header information, and internet provider addresses. To obtain approval for a pen register order or a trap and trace order, the law enforcement agency only needs to certify that the information likely to be obtained is relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation. This requirement is much lower than the probable cause required to obtain a court order to intercept an electronic communication. A prosecutor does not have to justify the request, and judges are required to approve every request. Currently, there is no federal law that requires wireless carriers to save text messages sent by U.S. citizens. Congress is considering amending the ECPA to specify how long text messages must be stored and exactly what data about each text message must be stored, e.g., full text or simply identification of the sender, receiver, data, and time. Asterisk. Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, 1994. The Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, CALEA, 47 U.S.C. 1001-1010 was passed by Congress in 1994 and amended both the Wiretap Act and ECPA. CALEA was a hotly debated law because it required the telecommunications industry to build tools into its products that federal investigators could use, after obtaining a court order, to eavesdrop on conversations and intercept electronic communications. Such a court order can only be obtained if it is shown that a crime is being committed, that communications about the crime will be intercepted, and that the equipment being tapped is being used by the suspect in connection with the crime. Asterisk. A provision in the Act covering radio-based data communication grew from a realization that the ECPA failed to cover emerging technologies, such as wireless modems, radio-based electronic mail, and cellular data networks. The ECPA statute outlawed the unauthorized interception of wire-based digital traffic on commercial networks, but the law's drafters did not foresee the growing interest in wireless data networks. Section 203 of CALEA corrected that oversight by effectively covering all publicly available electronic communication. With CALEA, the Federal Communications Commission responded to appeals from the Department of Justice and other law enforcement officials by requiring providers of internet phone services and broadband services to ensure that their equipment accommodated the use of law enforcement wiretaps. This equipment includes Voice over Internet Protocol (VoIP) technology, which shifts calls away from the traditional phone network of wires and switches to technology based on converting sounds into data and transmitting them over the internet. The decision has created a controversy among many who fear that opening VoIP to access by law enforcement agencies will create additional points of attack and security holes that hackers can exploit. USA Patriot Act, 2001. The USA Patriot Act, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism, Public Law 107/56, was passed just 5 weeks after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. It gave sweeping new powers to both domestic law enforcement and U.S. international intelligence agencies, including increasing the ability of law enforcement agencies to search telephone, email, medical, financial, and other records. It also eased restrictions on foreign intelligence gathering in the United States. Although the act was more than 340 pages long and quite complex, it changed more than 15 existing statutes. It was passed into law just 5 weeks after being introduced. Legislators rushed to get the act approved in the House and Senate, arguing that law enforcement authorities needed more power to help track down terrorists and prevent future attacks. Critics have argued that the law removed many checks and balances that previously gave courts the opportunity to ensure that law enforcement agencies did not abuse their powers. Critics also argue that many of its provisions have nothing to do with fighting terrorism. One of the more contentious aspects of the USA Patriot Act has been the guidelines issued for the use of NSLs. Before the USA Patriot Act was enacted, the FBI could issue an NSL to obtain information about someone only if it had reason to believe the person was a foreign spy. Under the USA Patriot Act, the FBI can issue an NSL to compel banks, internet service providers, and credit reporting companies to turn over information about their customers without a court order simply on the basis that the information is needed for an ongoing investigation. The American Civil Liberties Union (ACLU) has challenged the use of NSLs by the FBI in court several times. These lawsuits are in various stages of hearings and appeals. In one lawsuit, Doe v. Holder, the Court of the Southern District of New York, and upon appeal, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the NSL gag provision, which prohibits NSL recipients from informing anyone, even the person who is the subject of the NSL request, that the government has secretly requested his or her records, violates the First Amendment. Asterisk. The USA Freedom Act included modifications to the NSL provisions in the USA Patriot Act. Based on those changes, a district court has found NSLs to be constitutional. Under the old NSL provisions, courts were limited in being able to review NSLs. However, under the USA Freedom Act, there is at least some potential for judicial review, and that now makes them constitutional in the eyes of the court. Asterisk.
Crazy. Welcome to the live. Good morning, Christopher. Brian said they've been awake since. Wow, that's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. You're probably a morning person. That's early though. It's really early. Right now I'm taking some notes on privacy in the United States. Did you just hear what that textbook guy read to us? They said that the United States has a law or an act known as the NSL gag provision, and this essentially allows an individual or the government, it allows the government to request access about an individual related to like their personal information and their records without having to notify an individual that they did that. So, yeah. Is there a guideline? Let me see. Yeah, it said the FBI can use this NSL to like go to banks, to internet searches, credit reportings, and request them to turn over information about their customers without having to like notify the customer that they did that. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. I look tired. I did not think I looked tired. Well, I mean, yeah, I woke up pretty early, but I'm almost done. This has been a really long chapter. Once I'm done with this chapter, I'm gonna go to my discussion post. I pretty much wrote it, like a draft foundation of it, so I learned some new information in this textbook this chapter that I think is going to be relevant to like conveying my point in my discussion post. So I'm going to include that information, and then when I'm done, I'm going to take like a 2 to 3 hour break, and then I'll come back to the work because I want to like very early draft, because I'm drafting a lot, guys. I literally started writing, I don't know, like 3 different writing assignments this week, 3 to 4. It's nowhere near as perfect, but at least, you know what, at least I got something down so I can edit it. It's less stress later on when I actually have to like officially start the assignment. Yeah. So yeah. What was I writing? That's crazy though. They can like request your information like that. You're going to the living room? Okay, Lucas. Oh, you were in your room before? Out notifying an individual. Okay, this can relate to bank records, internet searches, credit reporting, a lot of stuff, guys.
Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act Amendments Act, 2004. In 2004, Congress amended the FISA to authorize intelligence gathering on individuals not affiliated with any known terrorist organization, so-called lone wolves, with a sunset date to correspond with certain key provisions of the USA Patriot Act. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 Amendments Act of 2008. A few months after the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks, President George W. Bush signed an executive order that secretly authorized the NSA to monitor the international calls and emails of people inside the United States without court-approved warrants. The New York Times revealed the warrantless eavesdropping program in late 2005 after an investigation that lasted over a year. Due to the controversial nature of the program, it was suspended temporarily in January 2007. The Bush administration and other advocates of the program say this action was necessary to disrupt terrorist plots and prevent further attacks within the United States. Under this program, the NSA began warrantless eavesdropping on people in the United States who were linked to names and phone numbers found in terrorists' computers, cell phones, and Rolodexes seized in various CIA operations overseas. Warrants were still required for eavesdropping on strictly domestic communications, say, phone calls from someone in Atlanta to a person in Los Angeles. Asterisk. The disclosure of this secret program triggered 3 years of heated congressional debate that ended with Congress passing the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978 Amendments Act of 2008, granting NSA expanded authority to collect, without court-approved warrants, international communications as they flow through U.S. telecommunications network equipment and facilities. The targets of the warrantless eavesdropping had to be reasonably believed to be outside the United States. Warrants were still required to monitor wholly domestic communications. The act also granted retroactive immunity from federal or civil action to any telecom firm that had participated in the warrantless eavesdropping program during the period of time this program could potentially be ruled illegal, September 2001 to January 2007. Asterisk. In 2009, the NSA notified members of various congressional intelligence committees that technical difficulties in distinguishing between wholly domestic and overseas communications had resulted in the collection of domestic communications without the required warrants. Asterisk. The USA Freedom Act terminated the bulk collection of telephone metadata by the NSA in 2015. Patriot Sunsets Extension Act of 2011. The Patriot Sunsets Extension Act of 2011, Public Law 112-14, granted a 4-year extension of 2 key provisions in the USA Patriot Act that allowed roving wiretaps and searches of business records. This act also extended the 2004 FISA amendment that authorized intelligence gathering on lone wolves. All 3 provisions are considered extremely useful by law enforcement officials, but are opposed by some who say they can lead to privacy right abuses. These extensions were briefly allowed to expire in 2015 before being reinstated by the USA Freedom Act. USA Freedom Act, 2015. The USA Freedom Act was passed following startling revelations by Edward Snowden, a former government contractor who copied and leaked classified information from the NSA in
See what I
2013
told
without
y'all?
authorization of secret NSA surveillance programs. Here is a partial list of those revelations. Asterisk. Asterisk. U.S. phone companies had been providing the NSA with all of their customers' records, not just metadata, when each call was made and to what number.
I told y'all.
The NSA had been spying on over 120 world leaders, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel, a U.S. ally. The NSA has developed a variety of tools to circumvent widely used internet data encryption methods. An NSA team of expert hackers called the Tailored Access Operations hack into computers worldwide to infect them with malware. The FISA court reprimanded the NSA for frequently providing misleading information about its surveillance practices. The USA Freedom Act terminated the bulk collection of telephone metadata by the NSA. Instead, telecommunications providers are now required to hold the data and respond to NSA queries on the data. The act also restored authorization for roving wiretaps, which allows surveillance of individuals even if they frequently change communications devices, and the tracking of lone wolf terrorists. Fair information practices. Fair information practices is a term for a set of guidelines that govern the collection and use of personal data. Various organizations as well as countries have developed their own set of such guidelines and call them by different names. The overall goal of such guidelines is to stop the unlawful storage of personal data, eliminate the storage of inaccurate personal data, and prevent the abuse or unauthorized disclosure of such data. For some organizations in some countries, a key issue is the flow of personal data across national boundaries, transborder data flow. Fair information practices are important because they form the underlying basis for many national laws addressing data privacy and data protection issues. Europe has been more active in this area than the United States, and most of the national laws addressing data privacy originate in Europe. Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development for the Protection of Privacy and Transborder Flows of
We're
Personal
so
Data,
close to the
1980.
end.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, is an international organization currently consisting of 35 member countries, including Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Its goals are to set policy and to come to agreement on topics for which multilateral consensus is necessary in order for individual countries to make progress in a global economy. Dialogue, consensus, and peer pressure are essential to make these policies and agreements stick. Asterisk. The OECD's Fair Information Practices, established in 1980, are often held up as the model for ethical treatment of consumer data. These guidelines are composed of the 8 principles summarized in Table 4.3.
Alright. I'm not gonna write it all down, but I'm gonna give myself a note. Glad you made it safe to your living room, Lucas. Okay, we got the OECD guidelines. It's on page 151. Then I'm just gonna I'm not gonna write the definition, but I'll write term name of it. I like to read the whole entire chapter because I know some people don't read the whole entire chapter, so I just like to get the whole gist of everything. And when I can, I like to read it in one sitting because I don't like coming back. It feels like it's uncompleted, but sometimes I do have to break up my chapter reading because they just be too long sometimes. So, I guess that's why I tend to read my textbooks first thing when I start my schoolwork because I know they're long. and I can finish it. Rather, if I were to start in the afternoon after I did a whole bunch of work, I tend not to read the whole thing in one setting. You're watching a paid programming on TV? Okay, cool, cool. What TV show is it? What is that, like cable? The paid programming? But welcome everybody who just joined in the live. Shout out if you've been here for a while since the start of it. Thank you for sticking on. I started with 100%. My phone is at 36% right now. So yeah, if you just tuned in, welcome to the live. Uniquely Mia here. I'm taking some notes. I'm working ahead, so I'm reading like a textbook chapter. Tomorrow, I'll watch the lecture videos that my professor posted, like related to this chapter. I can't do that today. I'm not doing that today. So when I read this chapter tomorrow, I'll watch chapter 4 lecture videos, and then once the new week starts, I still have to read chapter 5 for this class, because technically I think technically chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is all due by January 21st. So yeah. So definitely consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, guys. Do degree grad student. Studying public administration and criminal justice, and I essentially show you my life. And sometimes I live stream when I'm doing some schoolwork or taking notes, so you could learn some stuff as well. I think Textus is a very easy way where you could learn something specifically about privacy and how your privacy and personal data is monitored in the United States. So all you got to do is use listen. Okay, yeah, Mexican shows, cool.
The European
cool.
Union
I've
Data
never seen one,
Protection
though.
Directive, officially known as Directive 9546/EC, requires any company doing business within the borders of the countries comprising the European Union (EU) to implement a set of privacy directives on the fair and appropriate use of information. Basically, this directive requires member countries to ensure that data transferred to non-EU countries is protected. It also bars the export of data to countries that do not have data privacy protection standards comparable to those of the EU. For example, in 2012, the European Commission approved New Zealand as a country that provides adequate protection of personal data under the directive so that personal information from Europe may flow freely to New Zealand. Asterisk. The following list summarizes the basic tenets of the directive. Notice, an individual has the right to know if his or her personal data are being collected, and any data must be collected for clearly stated, legitimate purposes. Choice, an individual has the right to elect not to have his or her personal data collected. Use. Welcome, Alan. Glad you could tune in on your break. Really appreciate it. How are you doing today? An individual has the right to know how personal data will be used and the right to restrict their use. Security. Organizations must implement appropriate technical and organizations measures to protect personal data, and the individual has the right to know what these measures are. Correction. An individual has the right to challenge the accuracy of the data and to provide corrected data. Enforcement. An individual has the right to seek legal relief through appropriate channels to protect privacy rights. Asterisk. Initially, EU countries were concerned that the largely voluntary system of data privacy in the United States did not meet the EU directive's stringent standards. Eventually, the U.S. Department of Commerce worked out an agreement with the EU. Only U.S. companies that were certified as meeting certain safe harbor principles were allowed to process and store data of European consumers and companies. Thousands of U.S. multinational companies, such as Caterpillar, Experian, Ford, Gap Incorporated, Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, and Sony Music Entertainment, that need to exchange employee and consumer data among their subsidiaries to effectively operate their businesses have been certified. In addition, companies such as Facebook, Google, IBM, and Microsoft that provide email, social networking, or cloud computing services involving employee and consumer data have also been certified. Asterisk. In October 2015, however, the European Court of Justice declared invalid the Safe Harbor Agreement between the EU and the United States that allowed some 4,400 organizations to transfer data in huge quantities to their servers in the United States. Asterisk. The court took this action out of concern over mass indiscriminate surveillance and interception of personal data by the U.S. authorities, a direct result of revelations made by whistleblower and former NSA contractor Edward Snowden. Because of this decision, the Safe Harbor framework has been replaced by the European United States Privacy Shield Data Transfer Program. European United States Privacy Shield Data Transfer Program Guidelines. This new arrangement places stronger obligations on companies in the United States to protect the personal data of Europeans and requires stronger monitoring and enforcement by the U.S. Department of Commerce and Federal Trade Commission. Under this new arrangement, access to personal data by public authorities will be subject to clear conditions, limitations and oversight, preventing generalized access. To join the Privacy Shield framework, a U.S.-based company will be required to self-certify to the Department of Commerce and publicly commit to comply with the framework's requirements. While joining the Privacy Shield framework will be voluntary, once an eligible company makes the public commitment to comply with the framework's requirements, the commitment will become enforceable under U.S. law. Asterisk. General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. The General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, officially known as Regulation EU 2016-679, is designed to strengthen data protection for individuals within the EU by addressing the export of personal data outside the EU, enabling citizens to see and correct their personal data, and ensure data protection.
Welcome, welcome. Rexy, glad you could tune in. I'm listening to a textbook for my class right now, taking some notes. It's basically informing us about privacy laws, acts, different things that surveillance our privacy in the United States. And great news, guys. This is the last key vocabulary word that I'm writing about. So after this, the process should go much faster. When I take notes, I tend to look for vocabulary words because obviously when you know the vocabulary words, they're important. Otherwise, they wouldn't be highlighted and have the definition for you. And then I like to listen. And if anything stands out to me that's unique in my opinion, I just write that down as well, because you could use the unique stuff in maybe discussion posts, essays, exams, things like that. The vocabulary words, those are important because they're vocabulary words.
Consistency across the EU. Organizations anywhere in the world that collect, store, or transfer personal data of EU citizens must work to ensure that their systems and procedures are compliant with this strict new framework. Non-compliance can result in penalties for privacy violations amounting to as much as 4% of the company's annual global revenue.
I can eat my fruit. It's the only good thing my dad gave me.
It will repeal European Union Data Protection Directive, officially Directive 9546/EC, the current Data Protection Directive. That directive simply outlined recommendations and had no real enforcement requirements. This allowed the various EU countries to implement the recommendations as they saw fit, leading to significant differences from country to country. As a result, organizations operating in the EU have had to deal with a hodgepodge of data privacy laws governing the storing and processing of personal data. The GDPR regulation would simplify matters by enforcing a single set of rules for.
Well, Lucas, hopefully you enjoy your show. If you have to tune off to watch your show, thank you so much for sticking around. Enjoy your show. I'm eating some cantaloupe, and this reading is about to finish.
Data protection across the EU. This will eliminate the need for costly administrative processes and save countries an estimated €2.3 billion, about $3.03 billion, per year. The GDPR would also likely replace the Privacy Shield framework. The GDPR rules are more comprehensive than the Privacy Shield rules and include the right to be forgotten, which requires organizations to.
All right, thank you so much for sticking around for the live stream.
Delete the personal data of European citizens upon request. Asterisk. The United Kingdom's Tesco Bank was hit with a data breach in November 2016 that impacted some 40,000 customer accounts, with money taken from half of them. Asterisk. Tesco Bank refunded £2.5 million, $3.2 million to its current account customers following the attack. If the GDPR had been in effect at the time of the breach, Tesco Bank's parent company could have been facing a fine of nearly £2 billion, $2.5 billion. Asterisk. Access to government records. The U.S. government has a great capacity to store data about each and every one of us and about the proceedings of its various agencies. The Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, enables the public to gain access to certain government records, and the Privacy Act prohibits the government from concealing the existence of any personal data record-keeping systems. Freedom of Information Act, 1966, amended 1974. The Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, grants citizens the right to access certain information and records of federal, state, and local governments upon request. FOIA is a powerful tool that enables journalists and the public to acquire information that the government is reluctant to release. The well-defined FOIA procedures have been used to uncover previously unrevealed details about President Kennedy's assassination, determine when and how many times members of Congress or certain lobbyists have visited the White House, obtain budget and spending data about a government agency, and even request information on the UFO incident at Roswell in 1947, see Figure 4.5. Notice that much of the information in
I'm full.
Figure 4.5 has been redacted, a practice common with FOIA requests. Figure 4.5 redacted response to FOIA request about Roswell incident. Redacted Freedom of Information Act, FOIA request. Federal Bureau investigation. The FOIA is often
the
used by
FBI.
whistleblowers to obtain records that they would otherwise be unable to get. Citizens have also used FOIA to find out what information the government has about them. There are two basic requirements for filing a FOIA request. 1. The request must not require wide-ranging, unreasonable, or burdensome searches for records, and 2. The request must be made according to agency procedural regulations published in the Federal Register. A typical FOIA request includes the requester's statement, pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, I hereby request a reasonably described record, and a statement of willingness to pay for reasonable processing charges. The fees can be substantial and include the cost to search for the documents, the cost to review documents to see if they should be disclosed, and the cost of duplication. FOIA requests are sent to the FOIA officer for the responding agency. Asterisk. Agencies receiving a request must acknowledge that the request has been received and indicate when the request will be fulfilled. The Act requires an initial response within 20 working days unless an unusual circumstance occurs. In reality, most requests take much longer. The courts have ruled that this is acceptable as long as the agency treats each request sequentially on a first-come, first-served basis. If a request filed under the FOIA is denied, the responding agency must provide the reasons for the denial along with the name and title of each denying officer. The agency must also notify the requester of his or her right to appeal the denial and provide the address to which an appeal should be sent. During 2015, the federal government processed a record high.
Quick break. What color should I use to highlight? I'm gonna use yellow, but like 2 colors. Choose 2 colors to highlight, guys. Quick. Be quick with it, please. I need your help.
Of 769,903 FOIA requests, with 37,860 requests, 4.9% of the total filed denied in full. Asterisk. An agency can deny a FOIA request based on the following 9 document exemptions. Asterisk. Information properly classified as secret in the interest of national security. Information related solely to internal personnel rules and practices of an agency. Information that is prohibited from disclosure based on other federal statutes. Trade secrets or privileged or confidential commercial or financial information.
Pink? Okay.
Privileged
Ignore the poll.
communications within
Somebody
or
voted.
between
Okay, we're
agencies.
using pink.
A personnel,
Thanks,
medical,
DH.
or similar file, the release of which would constitute a clearly
I'm using
unwarranted
pink and
invasion
yellow.
of
I use
personal
pink when I
privacy.
highlight.
Information compiled for law enforcement purposes.
Yellow's for vocabulary words. Pink is for headings. That's how I highlight.
Purposes, the release of which could reasonably be expected to interfere with law enforcement proceedings, would deprive a person of a right to a fair trial or an impartial adjudication, could reasonably be expected to constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Could reasonably be expected to disclose the identity of a confidential source. Would disclose techniques, procedures, or guidelines for
This is
investigations or
important.
prosecutions, or could reasonably be expected to endanger an individual's life or physical safety. Information that concerns the supervision of financial institutions. Documents containing exempt information about gas or oil wells. The use of the FOIA to access information can lead to a dispute between those who feel it is important certain information be revealed and those who feel certain government data should not be made public, including, in some cases, those whose privacy is being impacted. Phil Isle has been attempting to write a book about the trial of Paul Volckmann, a Chicago physician who was sentenced in 2012 to 4 consecutive life terms for illegally prescribing and distributing pain
That's just
medications.
overkill. Why would they do
Volckmann's
that?
trial lasted 8 weeks and included 70 witnesses and over
That's funny. Why would... Somebody was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms. You're not getting out of the first one. Why they had to add more? Why did they add 3 more, man? That's crazy.
220 exhibits. Asterisk. Following the trial, the DEA
That has to fall under, what is it? Unusual. Wait. Crew punishment. Unusual and crew punishment. I forgot what amendment falls under. I did a voice recording yesterday. You gotta try and connect them to classes to remember. Which one is it? First Amendment, judicial review, habeas corpus, unusual and crew punishment. Which amendment is it on there? I forgot. We know that. Yeah, that falls into the 8th Amendment, man. Cruel and unusual punishment, excessive punishments, man. 4 consecutive life sentences. You're not getting out in the first one, man.
that has prevented everyone from
funny.
viewing the evidence from the trial. Isle was denied access to court documents by the U.S. District Court clerk, appellate court clerk, the prosecutor, and the judge who presided over the case. Isle filed a FOIA request with the Department of Justice in 2012 but still was refused access. The denied request resulted in a lawsuit, which was filed in March 2015. Finally, in 2016, a U.S. District Court judge ruled that Isle's request to view trial materials used to convict Volckmann was legal and reasonable despite the DA's insistence that the release would compromise the privacy of numerous people, including trial witnesses. Asterisk. The government can respond in various ways to FOIA requests other than by providing access to the full and unadulterated documents requested. For example, the ACLU filed a FOIA request for information regarding the Justice Department's policy on intercepting text messages on cell phones. In response, the ACLU received a 15-page response in which every single page was redacted from top to bottom. Asterisk. In 2014, journalist Victor Hugo Michel submitted a FOIA request for information about drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman and was told that he would have to pay $1.46 million in fees to cover the cost of pulling information to meet his request. Asterisk. Privacy Act, 1974. The Privacy Act establishes a code of fair information practices that sets rules for the collection, maintenance, use, and dissemination of personal data that is kept in systems of records by federal agencies. It also prohibits U.S. government agencies from concealing the existence of any personal data record-keeping system. Under this law, any agency that maintains such a system must publicly describe both the kinds of information in it and the manner in which the information will be used. The law also outlines 12 requirements that each record-keeping agency must meet, including those that address issues such as openness, individual access, individual individual participation, collection limitation, use limitation, disclosure limitation, information management, and accountability. The purpose of the Act is to provide safeguards for people against invasion of personal privacy by federal agencies. The CIA and law enforcement agencies are excluded from this
Central
Act. In
Intelligence
addition,
Agency.
it does not cover the actions of
CIA.
private industry. Asterisk. Several individuals and organizations have attempted unsuccessfully to sue various federal agencies for what they perceive to be violations of the Privacy Act. For instance, in 2004, minors sued the Department of Labor for disclosing their Social Security numbers in connection with the publication of their black lung compensation claims. The Supreme Court ruled in a case involving one of those minors that an individual can file suit against the government to recover financial damages when personal information is exposed only if actual damage is proven, which it deemed the minor had not proved. In 2011, the Department of Defense and Science Applications International Corporation, a provider of government services and information technology support, was sued under the Privacy Act after military health insurance data on 4.9 million service members and their families were stolen. In this case, a federal judge ruled that data loss alone, without evidence the information was misused, did not merit damages. Asterisk. In another case from 2012, the Supreme Court decided that a Federal Aviation Administration employee whose HIV-positive condition was disclosed could not claim financial damages based on mental or emotional distress caused by a federal agency's intentional or willful violation of the Privacy Act. Asterisk.
Yay.
Key privacy and anonymity
More.
issues.
Don't give me more.
The rest of this chapter discusses a number of current and important privacy issues, including consumer profiling, electronic discovery, workplace monitoring, and advanced surveillance technology. Consumer profiling. Companies openly collect personal information about users when they register at websites, complete surveys, fill out forms, follow them on social media, or enter contests online. Many companies also obtain personal information through the use of cookies, text files that can be downloaded to the hard drives of users who visit a website, so that the website is able to identify visitors on subsequent visits.
Yeah, I definitely
Companies
did
also
that
use
before.
tracking software to allow their websites to analyze browsing habits and deduce personal interests and preferences. The use of cookies and tracking software is controversial because companies can collect information about consumers without their explicit permission.
Oops.
After cookies have been stored on your computer, they make it possible for a website to tailor the ads and promotions presented to you. The marketer knows what ads have been viewed most recently and makes sure that they aren't shown again, unless the advertiser has decided to market using repetition. Some types of cookies can also track what other sites the user has visited, allowing marketers to use that data to make educated guesses about the kinds of ads that would be most interesting to the user. Offline, marketing firms employ similarly controversial means to collect information about people and their buying habits. Each time a consumer uses a credit card, redeems frequent flyer points, fills out a warranty card, answers a phone survey, buys groceries using a store loyalty card, or registers a car with the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, the data are added to a storehouse of personal information about that consumer, which may be sold or shared with third parties. In many of these cases, consumers never explicitly consent to submitting their information to a marketing organization. Marketing firms aggregate the information they gather about consumers to build databases that contain a huge amount of consumer data. They want to know as much as possible about consumers, who they are, what they like, how they behave, and what motivates them to buy. The marketing firms provide these data to companies so that they can tailor their products and services to individual consumer preferences. Advertisers use the data to more effectively target and attract customers to their messages. Ideally, this means that buyers should be able to shop more efficiently and find products that are well suited for them. Sellers should be better able to tailor their products and services to meet their customers' desires and to increase sales. However, concerns about how these data are used prevent many potential online shoppers from making purchases. Online marketers cannot capture personal information, such as names, addresses, and social security numbers, unless people provide them. Without this information, companies can't contact individuals who visit their websites. Data gathered about a user's web browsing through the use of cookies are anonymous, as long as the network advertiser doesn't link the data with personal information. However, If a visitor to a website volunteers personal information, a website operator can use it to find additional personal information that the visitor may not want to disclose. For example, a name and address can be used to find a corresponding phone number, which can then lead to obtaining even more personal data. All these information become extremely valuable to the website operator, who is trying to build a relationship with website visitors and turn them into customers. The operator can use these data to initiate contact or sell it to other organizations with which they have marketing agreements. Opponents of consumer profiling are concerned that personal data are being gathered and sold to other companies without the permission of consumers who provide the data. After the data have been collected, consumers have no way of knowing how it is used or who is using it. In fact, consumer data privacy has grown into a major marketing issue. Companies that can't protect or don't respect customer information often lose business, and some become defendants in class action lawsuits stemming from privacy violations. A data breach is the unintended release of sensitive data or the access of sensitive data, e.g., credit card numbers, health insurance members, and social security numbers by unauthorized individuals. The cost to an organization that suffers a data breach can be quite high, by some estimates nearly $200 for each record lost. Nearly half the cost is typically a result of lost business opportunity associated with the customers whose patronage has been lost due to the incident. Other costs include public relations related costs to manage the firm's reputation, and increased customer support costs for information hotlines and credit monitoring services for victims. Table 4 lists the largest U.S. data breaches in the past 5 years. Asterisk. Table 4 largest data breaches in the past 5 years. Organization.
I'm gonna, you're not reading the chart to me, okay? 1 minute. Sensitive data. Access. That's crazy. If they share your social security number, all they giving you is like $200. Your social security number is your identity. Give me more than that. That's crazy.
Identity theft is the theft of personal information, which is then used without the owner's permission. Often, stolen personal identification information, such as a person's name, social security number, or credit card number, is used to commit fraud or other crimes. Thieves may use a consumer's credit card number to charge items to the person's account, use identification information to apply for a new credit card or loan in a consumer's name, or use a consumer's name and social security number to obtain government benefits. Thieves also often sell personal identification information on the black market. Asterisk. The Identity Theft and Assumption Deterrence Act, 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1028 makes identity theft a federal crime, with penalties of up to 15 years of imprisonment and a maximum fine of $250,000. Organizations are often reluctant to announce data breaches due to the ensuing bad publicity and potential for lawsuits by angry customers. However, victims whose personal data were compromised during the data breach need to be informed so that they can take protective measures. Publicly traded organizations have an obligation to report significant data breaches to the Securities and Exchange Commission. From January 2010 to September 2016, there were 2,642 actual data breaches at publicly traded companies, according to Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, a consumer advocacy group. But only 95 of these incidents were reported to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Chief financial officers at many of these non-reporting organizations claimed that breaches were not material, meaning they were not significant enough to influence an investor's decision to buy a company's stock. The Securities and Exchange Commission has yet to bring a case against a company that failed to disclose a data breach, but officials have not ruled out doing so. Asterisk. Most states have laws that require businesses to notify the state and/or affected consumers in a timely fashion of data breaches that compromise more than a set amount of consumer data. About 300 publicly listed U.S. companies reported cybersecurity incidents to a state regulator or directly to affected consumers over the past 6 years, although not all were reported in a timely fashion. Asterisk. For example, the New York Attorney General imposed a fine of $50,000 for delays in the reporting of 2 data breaches involving some 70,000 credit card numbers and other personal data at the Trump Hotels chain. As part of the settlement, Trump Hotels was also required to undertake additional security measures, including conducting annual employee security training, performing regular software security testing, and ensuring that contracted service providers implement and maintain appropriate safeguards. Asterisk. Electronic discovery. Discovery is part of the pre-trial phase of a lawsuit in which each party can obtain evidence from the other party by various means, including requests for the production of documents. The purpose of discovery is to ensure that all parties go to trial with as much knowledge as possible. Under the rules of discovery, neither party is able to keep secrets from the other. Should a discovery request be objected to, the requesting party may file a motion to compel discovery with the court. Electronic discovery, e-discovery, is the collection, preparation, review, and production of electronically stored information for use in criminal and civil actions and proceedings. Electronically stored information, ESIA, includes any form of digital information, including emails, drawings, graphs, web pages, photographs, word processing files, sound recordings, and databases stored on any form of magnetic storage device, including hard drives, CDs, and flash drives. Through the e-discovery process, it is quite likely that various forms of ESIA of a private or personal nature, e.g., personal emails, will be disclosed. The Federal Rules of Procedure define certain processes that must be followed by a party involved in a case in federal court. Under these rules, once a case is filed, the involved parties are required to meet and discuss various e-discovery issues, such as how to preserve discoverable data, how the data will be produced, agreement on the format in which the data will be provided, and whether production of certain ESI will lead to waiver of attorney-client privilege. A key issue is the scope of e-discovery, e.g., how many years of ESI will be requested and what topics and/or individuals need to be included in the e-discovery process. Often organizations will send a litigation hold notice that informs its employees or officers of the opposing party to save relevant data and to suspend data that might be due to be destroyed based on normal data retention rules. Apple and Samsung were embroiled in a dispute involving alleged patent infringement, which led to an additional dispute over litigation hold notices. During the patent infringement litigation, the court cited Samsung for failing to circulate a comprehensive litigation hold instruction among its employees when it first anticipated litigation. According to the court, this failure resulted in the loss of emails from several key Samsung employees. Samsung then raised the same issue. Apple had neglected to implement a timely and comprehensive litigation hold to prevent broad destruction of pertinent email. A key learning from this case is that an organization should focus on its own ESI preservation and production efforts before it raises issues with its opponents' efforts. Asterisk. Collecting, preparing, and reviewing the tremendous volume of ESI kept by an organization can involve significant time and expense. E-discovery is further complicated because there are often multiple versions of information, such as various drafts stored in many locations, such as the hard drives of the creator and anyone who reviewed the document, multiple company file servers, and backup tapes. As a result, e-discovery can become so expensive and time-consuming that some cases are settled just to avoid the cost. Asterisk. Traditional software development firms as well as legal organizations have recognized the growing need for improved processes to speed up and reduce the costs associated with e-discovery. As a result, dozens of companies now offer e-discovery software that provides the ability to do the following. Analyze large volumes of ESIA quickly to perform early case assessments. Simplify and streamline data collection from across all relevant data sources and multiple data formats. Cull large amounts of ESI to reduce the number of documents that must be processed and reviewed. Identify all participants in an investigation. Workplace monitoring. Cyberloafing is defined as using the internet for purposes unrelated to work, such as posting to Facebook, sending personal emails or instant messages, or shopping online. It is estimated that cyberloafing costs U.S. business as much as $85 billion a year. Some surveys reveal that the least productive workers cyberloaf more than 60% of their time at work. Asterisk. Many organizations have developed policies on the use of IT in the workplace in order to protect against employees' abuses that reduce worker productivity or that expose the employer to harassment lawsuits. For example, an employee may sue his or her employer for creating an environment conducive to sexual harassment if other employees are viewing pornography online while at work and the organization takes no measures to stop such viewing. Email containing crude jokes and cartoons or messages that discriminate against others based on gender, race, sexual orientation, religion, or national origin can also spawn lawsuits. By instituting and communicating a clear IT usage policy, a company can establish boundaries of acceptable behavior, which enable management to take action against violators. The potential for decreased productivity and increased legal liabilities has led many employers to monitor workers to ensure that corporate IT usage policies are being followed. Almost 80% of major companies choose to record and review employee communications and activities on the job, including phone calls, email, and web surfing. Some are even videotaping employees on the job. In addition, some companies employ random drug testing and psychological testing. With few exceptions, these increasingly common, and many would say intrusive, practices are perfectly legal. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution protects citizens from unreasonable government searches and is often invoked to protect the privacy of government employees. Public sector workers can appeal directly to the reasonable expectation of privacy standard established by the 1967 Supreme Court ruling in Katz v. United States. However, the Fourth Amendment cannot be used to limit how a private employer treats its employees. As a result, public sector employees have far greater privacy rights than those in private industry. Although private sector employees can seek legal protection against an invasive employer under various state statutes, the degree of protection varies widely by state. Furthermore, state privacy statutes tend to favor employers over employees. For example, to successfully sue an organization for violation of their privacy rights, employees must prove that they were in a work environment in which they had a reasonable expectation of privacy. As a result, courts typically rule against employees who file privacy claims for being monitored while you...
I'm going to streamline this process really quickly. I can read faster sometimes. Any company fitness trackers, hard to organize fitness program, device from Apple, Fitbit, and other collect valuable data, employee health and physical movements, but can open the door to numerous ethical and legal issues. For example, suppose, let me highlight this. This could be useful. Highlight, for example, suppose a product. I'm looking for my advertised peers. Very interesting. Very interesting. Should the employer investigate? Okay. Says how do you strong line standards? As a result. Advances in information technology such as surveillance cameras and satellite-based system that can pinpoint person's physical location can provide amazing new data capabilities. However, these advances can also diminish individual privacy and complicate the issue of how much information can be captured about people's private lives. Advocates of advanced technology argue that people have no legitimate exception. Privacy in the public place. Thus, the Fourth Amendment privacy rights. Critics raise concerns. Use of surveillance. Yeah, we already know this. Surveillance cameras are used in major cities around the world in an effort to deter crime. Is it successful? Perhaps, perhaps not. Critics believe that such scrutiny is a violation of civil liberties and are concerned about the cost of equipment. Government got a lot of money, just need to allocate it correctly. Let us see. Critics believe. They can provide examples in which cameras help solve. Why is this happening? Okay, I think it won't do it anymore. Civil liberties, I can read better. They can provide examples. I mean, that's the benefit because eyewitness testimony is not always accurate, as we know. There are 5.9 million. China. Any police department, Microsoft. But who's looking at the surveillance cameras and who has to process all that data? Like, you gotta think it. $400 million system is sensitive enough to tell if radiation. Okay, that's interesting. I should have just read the summary. They got like a whole summary page at the end. I went through every single chapter. Oh my gosh, I favorited it. Alright, guys, so we are finished. I have to read the summary. I ain't doing that now. My phone is dying. It only has 16%, so I'm gonna have to log off, but I'm not done with my work yet. Once I log off, I will go back to some discussion posts. It's not going to take long. I hope it doesn't take long. But what I want to do. Good morning, Holly. Welcome to the live. Glad you could tune in. How are you doing this morning? Unfortunately, I have to log off. My phone only has 15%, so it's dying. I was on live for a while, so I mean, it did pretty good. At least you guys saw me to the end of this textbook reading. So once I log off, like I said, I am going to work on a discussion post. 15-20 minutes, that's how long I'm hoping it's gonna take. If it takes longer, it takes longer because I just want to like add some info. Once I finish with that, I'm gonna take like a 2 or 3 hour break, and then after my break I'll come back to my computer, and then I think I'm either going to be doing, I think I may either like work on like start the draftings of a paper that's due early on now, or I might look at my discussion posts again. I don't know. I look at my writing work a lot of times, guys. So when I say I'm looking at the discussion posts again, it really does mean again, because the first draft is never the best draft, okay? As you read new chapters, you learn new information that you can add to it to make your claims like stronger, because it's going to be supported by evidence. So yeah, so I look at my writing, I look at my work a lot, and I like to start early so I'm not stressing about it later on in the semester. Lucas, I see your Roblox message. I will live stream later on. It was fun yesterday, so I think I might try a different time, but I want to try live streaming on TikTok as well. So I think I'm going to live stream on YouTube. See if I can live stream on TikTok and YouTube together today. If I can't, but stay tuned, guys. Recently created a Roblox account, to see what the hype is about. So, I want to get past this one stage. There's this room in Roblox. It's like the third game. They killed me. The other characters, I did not get past it. So today I'm going to live stream it, and we're going to get past that. So maybe that's what I'll do when I take my 2 to 3 hour break. I did not expect. Yesterday I set a 2 hour timer, and I was live streaming on Roblox. I was literally live streaming for like 2 hours straight on Roblox. I did not know I was playing a video game for 2 hours. But that's why I set timers. So, yeah. Breakfast time. I don't have anything to make DH support. I mean, I have. If I would make breakfast, I have sweet plantains. I'll probably boil that, and because I don't have oil, I can't fry it. I didn't know I don't have oil. And yeah, all I have to eat is like I have frozen chicken patties. I'm gonna save that though for like lunch or dinner, and then I have my mom's food, which I'm also gonna save for like lunch or dinner. I could go outside to my school's diner hall. Oh, my school's diner hall is not even open. They open at like 10:30 today. And it's raining out there. But I'm not even hungry. So if I decide to cook something, I'll live stream it or I'll tune in with it, eat with me. But all I have is sweet plantains. If I do make something, I'm probably gonna put that to boil. And like I said, it's really sweet. So if it's really sweet and I boil it, I think I'll like it. And I'll just eat that because I don't want them to spoil. But thank you so much, guys. I mean, you guys can, yeah, I'll end it. I don't want it to just abruptly end. I have to charge my phone. But thank you so much, guys, for tuning into this live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something, because that was like the whole purpose of it, to like try and incorporate you guys in my schoolwork. And I mean, I learned a lot of interesting things. I mean, some of the knowledge that I already had was reiterated, and like now I have evidence like to support my claims that I make, which is always good. And hopefully you guys learned how technology monitors you, like your TV, your smart TV is listening to your conversations. When you type something into Google, the algorithm is saving your information, so thus it's going to recommend things to you on the same topic. The government is surveilling you 24/7. If you call people from the Philippines, from Afghanistan, Bahamas, and Kenya, government's automatically listening to those conversations, guys. So yeah. Anything, you can't hide from it. I mean, move to a remote island or a remote country and literally have no technology if you do not want the government to monitor you. Crimes aren't good, so don't commit a crime, guys, because if anything, that shows you commit a crime, you're gonna get caught with the amount of technology they have monitoring you. Thank you so much for watching this YouTube live video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. As always, I enjoy live streaming for you guys, and I'll see you soon, because like I said, I'm gonna live stream me playing Roblox for you guys to try and beat game number 3. So have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in literally maybe like 1 to 2 hours. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and that your post notifications are on. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.